iRobot was published in 1950, but collects short stories originally published in the 1940s. Strange Playfellow, which later became Robbie, was originally published in Super Science Stories in 1940. While I want to approach iRobot as a novel, it is worth remembering that the material here was reworked from originally self-sufficient stories.
There are two threads that I want to pursue in the novel. One is obvious, the idea of the robot and all that Asimov does with that. But the other, while less obvious, is equally important, I think. That is the impressions of American social life, specifically the tension between private life and business, the corporate world that runs through so many of the stories. While political issues become important in the last two stories, the first 7 depend substantially on characters holding down corporate jobs. This informs many of their decisions and behaviors, and is worth considering with some attention.
Before reading the novel, then, please spend some time thinking about the manner in which your career, and especially your perception of yourself as a member of a particular industry or field, influences your perception of yourself in other ways. From Dilbert in the newspapers to The Office on NBC, parody of the corporate life seems to be the dominant mode of talking about this phase of our lives. But when Asimov was writing in the 1940s, American society was changing drastically as more and more people shifted from self-employment, farming, small business, and the like, to wage employment. Driven by the vast machinery of the war efforts in the first part of the decade, technology and corporate activity looked to be the means by which American democracy and the good life would come to dominate the future. As you read iRobot, you might ask whether the novel reflects that optimism, or does it interrogate it in any meaningful ways?
Perhaps even more central to the American imagination in the 1940s was the triumph of technology, both literally in that American technological power was seen to have won World War II, and figuratively as science and engineering continually pushed back the frontiers of what we knew and what we could do.
Obviously, the field of robotics hasn't developed in quite the way that Asimov described it. In iRobot you will meet positronic robots who are increasingly human both in form and in behavior. But many of the social issues that Asimov explores here are very familiar ones to us today. Are our machines really making our life simpler, safer, and easier? Or do they make life more complicated, more rushed, less comfortable? According to the IEEE, there may be more than 6.5 million robots already at work today.
Whether our robots are nursemaids or automated welding arms, the emotional and intellectual means by which we interact with the technology we use every day continually affects us. Today I awoke to an automatic alarm clock, programmed my DVR to record my favorite television show, drove to campus, stopped at an ATM, listened to my iPod, fired up the computer, and headed out into the World Wide Web. I know very little about how any of those machines work, but I depend on them to work, and to work reliably. When my DVR records America's Got Talent rather than SpongeBob's SquarePants or my computer seizes up on me, I'm stuck.
At the end of World War II, popular imagination in America held that these combined forces, business and technology, guided by uniquely American enthusiasm and know-how, would make the world better, safer, and more free. As you approach iRobot, ask yourself whether the story is here, and the novel as a whole, freely endorses that excitement.